to financial literacy tips. This is exciting for me because the importance of being financially literate, when I say it's life changing, right? So, unfortunately, and I know many of you can attest to this, we did not get the education necessary to be financially literate in school, right? So we didn't get it in school, we didn't get it growing up, we may not have got it from our parents, but if we didn't, why didn't we? Because they didn't get it in school. They didn't get it from their parents. It's almost like this hidden secret, this hidden gem they don't want everybody to know. And if you know it, boom, it's like, right? So what I would like to do is, a lot of times we feel like the wealthy were born wealthy. So the only way you being wealthy is if you either somehow got really good at a sport and got a contract, you somehow got your album heard and made a whole lot of money being a celebrity or an actress or a musician, or you were born wealthy. It's difficult to climb that ladder either or any other way, right? And that's so far from the truth. But it does seem to feel that way sometimes. And I'll tell you why. One reason is, generally, when we start off into our adult lives, we're worried about all these other things. Number one, we start off with creative debt when we start college, right? So we start off with debt that we don't understand, other than the fact that everybody wants us to go to school. So let's go to school, right? Whether we wanted to or not, whether we know what we want to do or not, go to school, create that first set of debt. Then you have all these creditors sending you credit cards or applications for credit cards. Now that you're 18, you go to JCPenney and they want to offer you stuff and don't really explain what it is that they're offering you when they say, hey, I can save you this much money today if you apply for this card. Would you like it? And because we are not taught what that really means, we say yeah, or we say sure, not realizing that they're running your credit. So it's important that we learn these things. And what happens is because we don't learn it, we jack ourselves up before we get a chance to really have a full grasp of what we need to do. So, and when I tell you, it is so much easier to mess up your credit than it is to build it. It is also so much easier to mess it up than to fix it. It almost feels like when it's jacked up, it takes forever to clean it up. Because it's just, it's like an endless kind of cycle of different things, and you don't really have a full understanding of what's messing it up in the first place. Like, other than the simple stuff, right? So we know if you have a debt and you don't pay it on time, you're jacking your credit up. But there are other things. If you do apply for that credit card, that JCPenney credit card, and you don't get it, I just affected my credit score. And that is a negative impact, right? If I have several people checking my credit, you impacted my credit score. What? If I have, so say I do get approved for JCPenney and Capital One and whoever else, and then I have too much credit, that's impacting my credit score too. Because, and then if you actually use it and you don't understand how to use it, how to pay it back in a certain time frame, in a certain amount, how much to utilize, how much not to utilize. I know you guys guessed it. You're impacting your credit score. So it is important to understand credit, to understand finances. I tell you one, so because I work in banking, one that gets me every time. Most people feel that banking is free. Hey, I got a bank account, shouldn't cost me anything. I got a fee? You're charging me to bank here. Banks are not nonprofits. So being the fact that they're not nonprofits, in order to have the overhead, to have the building, to have the employees, they don't make money just because you deposit money. How do you think they make their money? Right? They make their money in several different ways. Fees is one of them. So all bank accounts cost unless you're doing certain things to prevent the cost, right? So I don't want to say it's crazy because it's just a lot of things that we aren't taught. And because we aren't taught it, it's like almost like you're set up from the get-go because we don't have a choice but to adult, right? We don't have any choice but to eventually pay bills. We don't have any choice but to eventually, I mean, you don't have to open a bank account, but they make it really hard if you don't, right? How do you cash your check? Most places won't cash your check unless you have a bank account, or you're being charged crazy fees to go somewhere else and cash it. And then sometimes, depending on it, they may not cash it. So it's almost like they almost force you to do it, but nobody ever teaches you. They give you all these disclaimers, and I know ain't nobody explaining every single disclaimer. It's a big old packet. Ain't nobody explaining it verbatim and what they all mean. So we get set up. I'll say it. We get set up in terms of financial literacy. So what I would love to do is kind of talk through a couple of things that if you are either just starting, or you are trying to rebuild, or hey, I'm on a good path, I just want to stay there or I want to elevate, some things to keep in mind. So aside from that, let's talk about financial literacy tips. So some of the things that you can start doing right now, right? One is discovery. You guys know from me talking about my book, or those who watch, discovery is always my first phase in everything. You first have to discover what is your current situation. Like, what is going on right now? I don't know how to fix or what to fix if I don't know where I'm currently at. So a couple of things that you can do. Give yourself an hour. Schedule yourself an hour. Put it on the calendar. Put it in your phone, your iPhone. Hopefully, nothing to my Androiders, but schedule yourself an hour. Go by yourself and go through your bank statements. What do I spend on? Generally, it's all in our app. You can go through and see, all right, this is how much I make every week, bi-weekly, twice a month, monthly, however you do it. And this is what I spend. So you can do it in categories. This is on food. This is on bills. This is on entertainment. This is on whatever, miscellaneous. And see what you're spending most of your money on. It's important to know what you're spending your money on, because that's where you're going to see where you can adjust that. Because a lot of people will say, I struggle to save money. I don't have nothing to save. Like, I don't know but when you go through that budget, you could probably find several things. When you go to work, do you go out to eat or do you pack a lunch? There's one area you can save. You may not have cable, so you may be saving, but how many movie subscriptions do you have? Movie channel subscriptions. Do you have all of them? Netflix, Hulu, Paramount, Disney. You have all of them? All right, then we need to limit some. Like, that's another way that you can save money. You'll go through and you'll see what it is you're spending most of your money on, and I guarantee you can find a place that you can either eliminate or condense. If you can't, call me. Go set up an appointment, because that's what I do. I help people find those things. So first, discover, where am I at? Like, what's my current situation? Once you discover your situation, you're going to create a budget, right? So a budget is important. It's probably one of my favorite things to do. I've been doing it forever. Like, I will set some time every week, and I'll go through whatever my budget is. My budget, I generally create a month or two ahead. So that way I at least have a plan. And then every week I'll go through it and just make sure, okay, this got paid, this is coming up. Because, things change. It's not going to stay exactly the same. So you'll go through and you'll just check off, like, this worked, this didn't work, I got to do this. This bill came up, or this new thing came up, so I need to put that in there. And just keep track of your budget. I spend at least once a week. I usually do more, but at least once a week where I'm going through my budget. Like, definitely when payday comes, even if it's the day before or the day of, before you start shooting out all the bills, let's look at this budget. All right, so it's accurate. How much did I really have to pay on electricity? How much did I really have to pay on water? How much did I really have to pay in gas? Right? And then you kind of just do that, and then you'll know what you got left. And then with knowing what you got left, you'll be able to say, all right, so this is going to go towards lunch. This is going to go in my savings. This is what I'm going to spend on whatever I want to spend it on. And you create that accountability with you and your budget, with you and your budget, with you and your budget. It's important. A budget is important, you guys. It's when I tell you to be able to plan what you're going to spend your money on, what has to be taken care of, it really takes the stress of all of it away. All right. So having a budget and a healthy budget, make it make sense, right? So aside from creating a budget, one of the things that I like to take a lot of my financial coaching clients through is a money diet. So what a money diet looks like is you going through and you finding those items that, hey, I don't necessarily need this. So I'm going to take 30 days and I'm going to eliminate these things. Whether it's I got 5 movie channels, I'm going to go down to 1. With this 1 movie channel, everything that I would have spent on those 5 movie channels, I'm going to put in the savings, right? I generally go out to eat all the time. Instead of spending $10 a day, $11 a day, because you can almost not go anywhere and not spend that much at least, right? Even fast food is not fast or cheap. So create that. Hey, instead I'm going to buy me a pack of ramen noodles with the 6-pack of cups that I can take and some water or what have you. And that's going to be my lunch all week. So I'm going to spend $20 as opposed to $50, $60 a week. And everything, those other $40, guess where that's going? In my savings account, right? So I generally, outside of going to work, I go to a million other places for no reason. So I'm going to cut out some of these extra places and I'm going to find things to do at home. All right, I have money that I saved in gas. I'm going to put it in my savings. Do that for 30 days. When I tell you, it takes 21 days to build a habit. You break some habits. Now, after those 30 days, if you want to pull some of those back in, okay. But you also realize that you can save, right? And maybe pull in just some of them, not all of them. Or budget yourself those things. Instead of saying, okay, I'm just going to have all this stuff going on, say, all right, so in this budget, this week I want to take a couple extra trips to this place. Or this week I know I want to go to lunch out at Taco Bell or wherever, maybe twice out of the week. So I'm going to put myself an extra 20 in there, right? So 40 as opposed to 60. So just budget those things in as opposed to just splurging them, all right? So I'm creating a budget, discovering your situation, creating a budget, a money diet. It helps you discover what you can save, how you can start building a savings, and kind of condense the things that you realize you really don't need, that we just do just because we can, because we have the money available. And then I always want to say start small. It is difficult to say for someone to go from never saving to say, all right, I'm going to go ahead and save $500 a month. That's not always easy, right? And then you set yourself up. So even if you say, I'm going to save $20 a paycheck, and I'm going to separate it from all the rest of my money, I'm going to take it and put it in a separate account, or I'm going to take it and I'm going to store it somewhere, I'm going to start with 20. That 20 is still going to build. Even if you got to start with 5, start somewhere. Sometimes starting big, although it would be nice to say, okay, I did $500 a month, and then after this amount of time I got this amount, it's not always realistic, especially if we haven't built that habit. So start small, so you're at least doing something, and you're not like going head first into a situation that you're not going to stick to. So sometimes it's important to start small. So those are going to be the first couple of tips that I'm going to give you. What I plan on doing on my Facebook, and I keep saying this, but I need to go ahead and do it, is do a couple of financial literacy courses. So what I've noticed is there are a lot of things that we don't really know about because nobody talks about them. So calculating your debt to income ratio. Most people don't know how to do that. So I'm going to go over a class. I'm going to teach you how to do it. It is important when you want to get funding or loans or finances. One of the things they check is your debt to income. Even if you have an 800 credit score and you make a whole lot of money, say you make $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 annually. If your debt to income ratio is too high, you're still not going to get the financing, right? So it is important to know how to calculate it, because if you can calculate it, you can correct it. So I'm going to do a class. I'm going to do an online course for free where I'm going to teach you how to calculate your debt to income ratio. I don't know if a lot of people know, and I actually just learned this not too long ago. It wasn't that recent, but not too long ago. Beneficiaries, when you talk about debt, right? So although we don't want to think about debt, it's inevitable. It's going to happen at some point. So what happens when you leave, right? Your money in your bank account, if you don't have a will and you don't have something set up, it automatically goes to the state, right? You make it harder for those people who are still here to get your stuff, to pay your money, pay for your funeral, do all that stuff. So having a will is important, yes. you need to have a will. But a lot of people don't know that beneficiaries on an account or on any type of, like, whether it's your 401k or any of that, they trump your will. All right? So let me give you an example of something that happened. There was a husband and a wife that were newly married. The wife had been married before. She had her ex-husband as her beneficiary for her money at her job. She got married again. They got a divorce. She got married again. When she got married again, she put her new husband in her will. She forgot that her beneficiary on her 401k was her ex-husband. When she died, it didn't matter what was in her will, because on that 401k, her beneficiary was the ex-husband. So guess who got that money in that 401k? The ex-husband. Okay? So some of these things that are really important that we don't think about, you know, even when it comes to creating trust, when it comes to the different accounts. So they have different kind of accounts in banking that if you're married, so say me and my husband had an account together and something happened with him and they started garnishing his wages out of our joint account. If we don't have a certain type of account, they garnish my income too. But if we have a specific account, which I will tell you about in these classes, they can only garnish money that came in from him, nothing that comes from me. So there are so many things that they kind of like don't tell you that is important in the sense of financial literacy. I'm going to do a course over the 50-30-20 rule. If you haven't heard about it, look it up, or wait for the class and I'll teach you, and we'll actually go through a budget, teaching you how to budget and helping you create a budget with the 50-30-20 rule. I have a whole list of things. When I tell you a whole list of things that we're going to work on, or that I'm going to kind of go through and kind of teach. So that is the end of our financial literacy. And